Good morning.
Good morning.
How are things in Boyd County this morning?
Well, it looks as though we have some severe, gosh, we're always facing something, some severe weather storms that's supposed to come through today, but that's spring. So right now we're doing pretty good though.
Well, that's good. We are currently streaming live on YouTube.
Okay.
I had to go ahead and do it so I could send the link.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I've been having some issues with it lately.
Hi, Commissioner.
Good morning, Alma. How are you doing, Commissioner? It's good to
I'm
see you.
You too. I see you on Facebook all the time.
Well, I kind of keep up with you. My granddaughter has kind of introduced. I've been reintroduced to a lot of friends and family, and we get to share because we're kind of spread apart. So I do enjoy that.
I don't know what we would have done during the pandemic without social media.
I know, I know. So there's a lot of good to it.
It is.
It is. And thank you for sending out all of that additional information because
I felt that was important.
It really helped me in trying to backtrack and get a little bit of everything.
Yes.
Don't want to miss anything. So
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. I do appreciate that.
So my computer shows 9:02. Am I fast?
Well, I think you're probably
I
about
think I'm
5
minutes
minutes
That's
fast.
interesting. Probably need to reset it.
Maybe with that change in the time.
Yeah, because I'm on Central. See, it's actually
Yes.
3
Oh,
here.
yes. See, we do that change. You spring forward and fall back. And I wish they'd make a decision.
I know.
It's a little hard.
It is. Hi,
So
Brent.
there's actually something Congress agrees on, and it looks like they might change it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do you really think so?
Hi, Brittany.
I read a
I
bill,
thought-
I read an article about a bill that has bipartisan support about going constantly to daylight savings time.
Well,
Wow.
hallelujah.
I
That
know.
would be nice.
So
That
it
we-
actually costs, the change actually costs lives in accidents. They can see a statistical uptick.
Well, that's good. I mean, it gets harder on you the older you get to bounce back from those.
Oh, and
1
with young
hours.
kids, it's horrible because you want to keep them on a schedule.
Sure,
Mhm.
sure.
Well, I'm glad they found something bipartisan that they can agree on. That in itself is huge.
Yeah.
It is indeed. It is indeed. It's the world that we live in, and I've been in it probably a lot longer than you all.
Oh,
have.
no.
I've seen a lot of things occur. And what is that saying? There's nothing new under the sun.
Under the sun. That's biblical.
True. It's true. Well, I hope one day we'll have an actual in-person meeting so
I know.
I can actually get to meet everyone
Yeah.
as a real person.
Maybe we're getting there. Who knows?
I know. I did finish all of my COVID vaccine, so
Oh, I finished mine tomorrow.
I feel better I'm 2 weeks out, so I do feel a little more secure.
Did you get the Pfizer or the Moderna?
Moderna, but we didn't really have a choice. They
Oh,
only
really?
had the one that was distributed in our area. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. The data and statistics are pretty close, so. I'm not so sure about the Johnson & Johnson. I'm still up in the
I
air.
don't think I would have wanted that one because it's only, I heard on the news yesterday, I think it's like 72% effective. And I was like,
And
why would anyone want that?
I'm just wondering about the reactions.
Yeah.
Now I have 859. So
I'm hoping my antibodies hold me for a really long time.
how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you. Good to
Good.
see you.
And you as well. Good morning, Mr. Cole.
You're muted.
I don't think he hears you.
Says she's connected, and I think she may be connected.
There
now.
you are.
I think, Terrence, I count 6 commissioners so far. Am I you got this right? Oh, there's Frank. Yeah. Did we hear from any specific one commissioner say they were not going to attend?
I have not heard from any.
Okay. Morning. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we'll give a couple more minutes to see if some others join. We got enough for a quorum now. Okay.
Here's Commissioner Thomas.
Good
Mhm.
No.
Good morning.
Okay, so we had Commissioner Henry on, Commissioner Garnetta Smith, Commissioner Randolph, Commissioner Cole, Commissioner Cheney, Commissioner Frank Smith, Commissioner Fuentes, Commissioner Thomas. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to call to order this March 18, 2021 meeting of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights. We'll ask the executive director to confirm that we do have a quorum, as well as confirming the public notice.
The notice was sent and we do have a quorum.
Okay, well, thank you. With that, the next item on our agenda is public participation. this is a session where the public may raise issues not already on the agenda. Do we have a public person who's going to speak to an item not already on the agenda?
We have one.
Okay.
Sandra Grace.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So Ms. Grace, are you I guess a couple of questions to lead into this. One, as I will note for the record, you are a KCHR employee. Are you speaking as a KCHR employee or as a person from the public?
I'm speaking as a person of the public.
Okay, and the issue you're going to speak to is not already on our agenda.
No, it is outside of the scope of day-to-day operations.
But is it on our agenda for today's discussion?
No, sir. I'm here to speak with my 5 minutes of public allowance.
Yes, within the parameters of which we talk. So proceed.
Yes, at the last meeting, you instructed me that you would go ahead with distributing the documents that I presented to Mr. Sullivan under your instruction on January 21st, 2021. And I'm just checking back. I tried to inquire with Mr. Sullivan if the documents had been distributed. I could not get a straightforward answer that all documents had been distributed unedited to all commissioners. So I'm here today to once again ask that my documents be distributed to the commissioners as they are to inform them of issues that are outside of the day-to-day operations of the agency. And as a concerned member of the public, I would like them to be aware.
If I'm not mistaken, in regards to at least one of the items that you spoke about, the commissioners have received and that were in prior receipt of. I'm not certain what other document you're talking about.
Well, I can provide you with several emails where Mr. Sullivan said he had appointments to speak to you about all the documents. So I would like to know that all the documents were distributed to the commissioners for their review, unedited.
We will proceed with that. As I say, I only recall one document, and if there are more than that, I will seek to find out more than that, and we'll proceed in accordance with what I need to do.
I would appreciate that. It would include 3 different separate documents in one PDF, one being text messages specifically, one being an email, and one being a page from a report from the state personnel cabinet. But if all could be distributed to the commissioners, I would be very pleased to hear that they have all the information they need.
Well, the latter, I know they do have.
Okay, I would like the first 2 as well to be given to them. As a member of the public, it was information provided outside of the agency. The correspondence was on my personal cell phone and in regards to things outside of the operation of day to day. As a concerned member of the public, I think that the commissioners need to be aware of that information.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Burse.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consideration and approval of the minutes of our meeting held on February 18th, 2021 and on March the 8th, 2021. Do you have a motion to approve those minutes?
So
I have a
moved.
question with the minutes.
Oh,
Let's get a motion to approve them and on the floor, and then we'll discuss the question regarding it. So is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. They're now on the floor. Commissioner Cole?
Yes, I know the last time it was indicated that I was not heard because I guess my mic was back and forth, but I'm thinking that I'm okay now. Everybody can hear me now?
yes.
Okay. On the minutes, and I know the last line is definitely not right. It ended where it said that I wanted it to be swept under the rug, and that's definitely not what I said. So for the record, I would like for that to be changed. I know I went through a couple of things that you guys didn't hear, and specifically, I did say page 17 and 18, I did have issues with that for the auditor not to be able to find where those payments were. And I did say that there was a red flag with this audit and because of these pages right here specifically. So I just want to make sure that for the record that was what I said.
So without objection, that correction will be made. Any other discussion of the minutes?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Burse. Tuesday morning, I took my tablet to Bardstown where I get my car serviced so that I could read the minutes. And I read the minutes. I was reading the minutes from the special session on March 18th. And when I got back home and started to read them again, the minutes have been changed. So we went from, I don't know, 10, 13 pages of minutes to, I think, 5 pages of minutes. And I think there's a lot of pertinent information that was redacted from that. And I'm just curious as to why that happened. And so now I have 2 sets of minutes on my tablet, and I'm not sure which ones we're supposed to use, but I'm also just curious of why so much information was left out of that. And some of the information is incorrect. Again, being the writing nerd that I am, there's, problems with the way it was written. It was hard to understand in its redacted form, just some particular sentences. So we could speak to that. That'd be great.
Okay, in regards, I guess when I read the minutes that are before you are the revised minutes that were sent out by the executive director. When I went through the minutes the first time, I guess what I was consumed by, all of us do not speak in full sentences, and when reading it was really hard for me to get through it. I asked the executive director to look at those minutes, and then minutes are a recitation of the action items that are there. We have a video transcript of the specific items that people have talked about. So we have 2 records. We have the minutes, which record the actions that took place. And then there's the video itself, which will provide specifics as it relates to what specific things were said. But so the main items of the discussion are supposed to be included in those minutes, but not a verbatim recitation of everything that was said.
Okay, I have one other correction, please, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
On page 21 of the minutes, at the end of the paragraph, you were quoted as saying he did point to the page mentioned, excuse me, by Commissioners Cole and Randolph, and highlighted a subsequent paragraph that indicates the lack of any findings by the auditors. That is an incorrect statement. They did not indicate any recommendations, but the report is full of findings. So if we could have that fixed, that would be great. Because as I did my review, the thing that I looked at after each section was the findings. So there were plenty of findings, but of course they did not make recommendations. Thank you.
That correction will be made. Any other corrections or additions to the minutes?
So I just want to get clarification again, make sure that I understand clearly what you're stating. Our iPads were uploaded with the minutes that reflects that they were verbatim. And then the same day, you deleted those minutes, and then who actually revised them?
The revisions were
The decision. I guess what I'm asking is, in this brief, the new version of the minutes, there are at least, I think, 7 paragraphs that are quoting the executive director. At the same time, quite a bit of information was redacted from the individual commissioners. Who made that decision? Was that your decision, Mr. Burse, or was that Mr. Sullivan's decision?
At my request, I asked Mr. Sullivan to go back through those minutes because one, I thought that in terms of the way they were written, there were a number of just fragments, statements there. There were misspelled words, misused language, and I asked him to go back and correct it. He corrected those, and that's what's being submitted, okay?
There's a difference in, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there's a difference in going back and correcting typos and going back and removing, how many pages did we go from 13 to 5? That's a lot of information that was redacted. So I just want the record to show that I questioned that. So.
Okay, the record will reflect that. Any other questions from any other commissioners? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected by, I think Commissioner Smith and I think Commissioner Cole made a correction as well as Commissioner Randolph. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, those minutes are approved. Next item.
I'm sorry. I had a question. Were we approving both sets of minutes at the same time?
Yes, we are.
Oh, instead of, because there were two different meetings?
Right, but I guess when I asked for the motion to approve of the minutes of those meetings.
I understand that. I was just seeking clarification.
Okay.
And I did not signify aye. My vote was no.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that they should be voted on separately because I don't have a problem with accepting the minutes, approving them from the February meeting, but I'm not going to vote in support of the March meeting. So if you're only going to allow us to vote one time for both, then I'll have to vote against it.
The motion on the floor was to approve both of those. If the person,
well, then maybe the motion needs to be.
Let me finish, Ms. Randolph. If the person who made the motion to approve the minutes will withdraw it, as well as the person who seconded it, then we'll go back and vote on them separately.
Okay, thank you.
I will proceed to withdraw my motion to approve both.
Based on Commissioner Henry's withdrawal, I second it, and I shall remove mine.
Okay, so now the floor is for a motion to approve the February 18th, 2021 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that those minutes, the February 18th, 2021 minutes be approved. Any additional discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Now we move to the March 8th minutes. Is there a motion to approve the March 8th minutes?
Make a motion to approve March 8th minutes.
Is there a second?
I second the motion to approve March 8th minutes.
Okay. Having heard the previous discussion, and I think there were at least three corrections that were made that were highlighted, one by Ms. Cole, one by Ms. Garner Smith, and one by Commissioner Randolph. So with those noted changes, all those in favor of approving the March 8th minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So those minutes are approved as well. So next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's report. Mr. Sullivan.
So good morning, everybody. This one will be really brief. There have been no real budgetary changes. As far as our personnel, this is the last week for Enforcement Officer Cedric Irvin, who will definitely be missed from here. He's been a great person to work with and makes everybody feel comfortable and motivated. And we just wish him the best moving forward. As far as our own open positions, both of the attorney positions have posted and they closed. One closed Saturday. I think the other one closed Tuesday. We had quite a few people who applied for both. And we just posted the investigator enforcement officer position. And so we're also working on doing another one soon just to make up for our loss. As far as training goes, since the last time we talked, there was a training that I joined with Education and Outreach with some more training for our federal database and working on handling intake functions. That way we can all step in to make sure things move forward. And also, there have been some conversations with HUD around our processing. And we also on Tuesday had a training with HUD that is about getting people more familiarized with some of the guidelines for information or entering the information into the housing system that we use, and also streamlining and improving our final investigative reports. And so that was on Tuesday. All staff have been registered for our annually required executive branch training, and that should be completed in the next few months. And then I had to do a specific ASC, agency security contact training, that now enables me to manage more internal functions at the state level in all of our systems. And so the first order of business was then using that training to grant Brandon specific access to facilitate our hiring functions, because up until now, we haven't had any of that in place. And so that was being basically outsourced to someone else within the state, and we never owned the postings. So now we can own our own postings. I talked a couple times now about outreach with local commissions. And so I've had a few conversations this month, just like last month. I met again with the executive director for the Louisville Local Commission, and we are now working together on putting together an event this April for Fair Housing Month. And so we're working together on trying to get some partnership to talk about rights that people have in housing, and especially right now, some of the challenges people are facing, and letting people know what their rights are and how they can access resources. The local chapter or local commission has a grant that they were working under to do a major campaign around fair housing. And so we reached out to them to talk about how we could be part of that and using some of the resources they've already put out. And then we're just connecting people to make what should be a pretty good event and very informative. After speaking with the chair about some of the operations with education and outreach, I worked with Marianne, and we're putting together a cleaner and clearer event calendar, so there can be a very clear messaging and advertising, and have it somewhere, hopefully, or we'll put it on the website, but where people can see what's coming up over a longer period of time, and we can promote things and other places can promote, because we have an events page, and we also know, in Women's History Month that we are going to be doing X, Y, and Z type of events, but just really to grow some of our reach and letting people know what's going on here, but also just having a more clarity around what's going on with education and outreach and our outreach efforts. In our meeting last month, we talked a little bit, and we talked about it a little bit in the special meeting as well, about end-to-end tracking. And so we are starting to test out some of the programs to monitor progress and streamline operations. We're working through getting some information that can transfer from Excel to Access. And so there are some hiccups that we still need to clear up before we can really go live, but Brandon has been working with us on that. Just a couple really quick things. I still need to finish performance reviews and performance planning. And in that process, I also wanted to be more introspective and more knowing myself. And so in our last all staff meeting, I asked for people here to let me know how I can be more effective and how I can be more supportive of them. So really offering basically the opportunity for them to give me a performance review and do some performance planning, because I also want to make sure that what we're doing here, that I'm supporting everyone here in the best way I can. And so that offer will remain open. And I hope that I do hear back from everyone really about things that they want me to do and things that I should not do, just so we can make sure that we're all one team. And so the last thing is a little more fun. We talked 3 meetings ago about the concept of refreshing our brand and just being in line with being more out there and letting people be more aware of what we're doing and who we are. It makes sense to be more consistent when we put things out to the community. And so one thing I noticed is that on some external documents, we had a logo, and on some we didn't. And then some we had a different logo. And so we've been working with different people here on doing an image refresh on how we do everything from PowerPoints to putting together posters and all of that. And one thing I really wanted to do and include everyone was to put together some logos so that we could use consistently. So I asked Brittany to put together 10 options for images that we could use for branding. And then we did a staff-wide vote where everyone got to say which they preferred. And of the ones that of all of those, the overwhelming favorite was the ones that you have in your book, where it's the KY with the since 1960. And so almost everyone voted for that one. And so we then went back and retooled it because there were a few comments of the coloring and how it would look on printing. But now that we have those, it's something we can move forward with. And I hope to get some type of merchandise for everyone to have, just as a team thing where we can start using that look. But I just wanted to make sure you all saw that as well, of what the work that went into that and what the final result was. And if anybody had any questions, happy to hear them.
Terrence, will you also use the Commonwealth of Kentucky seal, or would that be eliminated?
So we still use the seal. It's just for things like PowerPoints or a poster. Okay. Sometimes we'd have other offices have, instead of their state seal, will have like the office logo or whatever. And so just to be more in line with what others do in that capacity.
Yeah, I think having the seal, I think maybe gives us some, oh yeah, this is a state agency, other than us just saying it. But I like the play. I was looking for the word on, but I see what you did there. The Kentucky Commission is on top of human rights. So I got that.
Brittany's good at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the executive director?
I would just like to say, Mr. Burris, excuse me, I'm really sorry to see Cedric go. I don't know that in my 2.5 years, I got to meet him, but I'm certainly thankful for all the work that he did on behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth. So if you could express that to him for me, unless he's already gone, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll definitely do that. Cedric is very, very thorough in his investigations, and it's much appreciated.
Yes, please share the same on my behalf as well. Excellent employee.
Also me.
Any other questions for the executive director? Commissioner,
I have a question.
Yes.
Just a comment. I would like to encourage the executive director to put a little more effort on the social media. this is the item that we have talked before. And I think that still we need more presence on the social media, especially in Facebook. So by some way, I think that we are missing some opportunities there for keeping serving the Commonwealth. So this is my comment.
Thank you. I 100% agree with you and still hope to get more on that side of it. I wish we were back in the 10 years ago where we had a communications person, but we're working on it and we'll do more of that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Terrence, for your report. Next is budget and personnel. Brandon.
You have my report before you. I will make one slight addition. We did voucher, you can see under the action items, we vouchered HUD this week for administrative costs and case processing, and the amount was $177,400. So check is on the way. If you have any questions, I'll field them at this time.
Any questions on the financial report, Commissioner Cheney?
Yeah, I was just curious about the uniform expense.
Yes, all the uniform expense should be for the badges that we ordered for the enforcement officers.
Okay, all right.
And
Thank you.
a leather wallet to put the badges in.
Okay, it just caught my eye.
Which was
And
much
dress code
needed.
uniforms?
No, yeah. I used it to buy some new suits. No, and I would like to add that Cedric's knowledge and experience is truly going to be missed. And he's watching, so he heard all your comments. Actually, he's in the meeting now. So it's going to be, especially in housing, tough, almost impossible to replace him with his experience and knowledge in that area. So.
And so we give Cedric a big round of applause and our deepest thanks.
I think that's great, yes. Oh, there he is. Hey, Cedric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cedric.
Thanks.
Thanks for
I'm
that.
just sorry I didn't have, excuse me, the pleasure of meeting this young man. From all of the comments and nice things that people have said, I feel like I've missed an opportunity to meet someone who was outstanding.
I just want to remind you, Mr. Irvin, as you move on, that every housing case that you worked on, every family that was affected still continues. So your legacy in this organization is cemented even as you move on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, I don't know, can I speak? I don't know if I can speak.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
I want to say thank you to everybody that has read my work, has seen the product of my work. And I don't do my work lightly. I do take my work very seriously. You learn doing this. I've done this job for over 4 years, and you learn a lot, not only about yourself, but on how you see things, unconscious bias, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You learn a lot. And speaking on those families, me and Coke had a court case, a hearing to dismiss last Friday. And the woman, the complainant, called back after the case to tell me and Coke thank you. And if anybody else would have done their case, it wouldn't have been as satisfactory in her mind as it was with me and Coke on that case and in that court, advocating on her behalf. Because at that point, once it goes to legal, it's an advocation. Then it's, we're in support and, focused on them. It's not an impartial investigation anymore once it leaves me and goes to legal. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to miss this job. I did not want to lose this job. Special announcement. I'm with Child. So that's a new announcement. It was confirmed today. So that's good. I got the pictures and everything. Got it. I got that this morning. So it wasn't confirmed until this morning. But thank you, everybody. I'm going to get off first so the meeting can proceed on. But thank you. And I wish everybody well. And I wish the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights well.
Congratulations.
Thanks for sharing that good news.
Before you sign off, let me say, add my appreciation and thanks to the work that you've done. at the end of the day, what really makes the real difference is the people who do the work and people who are committed to what takes place. And based on the example you talked about, the recent case is a clear indication of the personal advocacy and commitment to the work that you bring to it that makes a real difference. And, you know, we're sorry to be losing you. But Terrence, what I would ask is make certain we do a debrief of him before he gets out of there so we can record all those things that he thinks are key items for best practices that we can use for others going forward. So all right. Thank you again, Cedric. Okay. Are any other questions regarding the budget and personnel?
Ooh.
Hearing none, the next we go to the enforcement unit. Aaron.
Hello, everyone. You all have my report before you. And we also on the agenda today, we have 20 cases for you all to vote on for your consideration. One is a conciliation, 1 reconsideration, 3 admin closures, 11 no probable cause cases, 2 withdrawal cases, and 2 withdrawal with settlement cases. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I have.
Go ahead, Commissioner Randolph.
Okay. And I apologize up front because I haven't been able to spend a lot of time on this, but on page 47, really page 47 and 48, the cases ranging from, well, let's just go 49, 47, 48, and 49. Those cases range from 767 days owed to 1,002 days. But I do see where it says pending closure at March Commission meetings. Am I missing something on this?
Okay, you're on the open case list. And what that open case list is, it is a working list of cases that is constantly changing as cases are closed and stuff. So the cases that you see on there that are say pending closure at March Commission meeting, those are actually cases that are on the agenda this month. You will also see closed at February Commission meeting and pending the reconsideration period. At the time that we had to do our report, that 14-day reconsideration period was still pending. So we couldn't take those February cases off until after that 14-day period. So I try to highlight them or note them on the list so you all can see which ones are on the agenda and which ones have been closed the month previous, but still may be pending that 14-day reconsideration period.
And I have one more question, and forgive me for not recalling the name of the case, but it was the one that we were trying to locate the complainant. She had been awarded, I think it was around $14,000. And we had spent some time trying to reach out to various sources to make her aware that this check was available to her. Can you update me on what's happened with that?
I think that would be more of a Colt update because that case came from legal. He might be able to give you a little bit more information. I think last I heard we couldn't find her, so we had submitted the check to the states, so where people can claim lost or unclaimed monies.
That's the last that I recall, is that it was going to be sent to unclaimed properties. But I just wondered if there had been any development on that.
Not that I know of. Colt might have. I don't know if he's had any contact or knows of any more updates regarding that, but I don't. That's the last I'd heard as well.
Yeah, there's no further update on that. I mean, that check was released to the Treasury, the treasurer, for unclaimed property. So I'm not sure there's much more that we can do on that.
Actually, we could not submit the check to unclaimed properties because it was not a check from our account. So I instructed the counsel for the title company to submit it to the treasurer and unclaimed properties.
The bottom line is still at unclaimed properties, right?
Right.
That was the last direction that I gave them.
Right.
Is this the only case that we have like that?
I believe so.
Okay,
That case predates me, but I think that's the only one that's like that. Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Spalding? Or on any of the cases? Hearing none, then can I have a motion to approve and accept the report of the enforcement unit?
So moved.
Is there a second? I thought you moved, Commissioner Smith, Garnetta Smith. I thought you made the motion.
I tried to, but I was muted, so I think
I
Ms.
saw
Henry.
your hand.
Okay.
I saw your hand. I guess I didn't see Commissioner Henry's hand, so I'll tell her for a second of that. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Any additional, any other discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving and accepting the report of the enforcement unit, say aye.
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 Thank
That-
you.
Thank you. That is approved and accepted. Next item on the agenda is the report of the Education and Outreach Unit. Ms. Taylor?
Juan will be in place of Miss Taylor today.
Okay.
Okay, good morning. Check. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. So good morning, commissioners, and good morning, everyone. Miss Mary Ann Taylor was not able to be with you all to give her report. So she asked me to do the report. Just for the records, I'm the human rights specialist for the Kentucky Human Rights Commission and work in the Education Outreach Unit. So the report, or her report, is in your book. I just want to make one correction in my part in the report. We have a Women's History Month forum today from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And in your report, it shows as March the 8th. It's supposed to be the March the 18th. Ms. Marian Taylor also asked me to highlight the other Women's History Month virtual forum on the 25th. We should have a flyer hopefully today or tomorrow. And you're both invited to attend these meetings, or you're invited to attend both meetings. The meetings for tonight, or the forum for tonight, is going to be in Spanish. And the goal with this one is to reach out to these Spanish-speaking individuals who don't usually attend in meetings. So that's an effort to reach out this population that we don't usually attend meetings. So Commissioner Fuentes has signed up to attend the meeting. So we look forward for him to give some welcome remarks, get to know the public or partner groups across the state. So if you have any questions, I would be more happy to relay that to Ms. Marian Taylor.
Thank you, Juan, for your good job. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, so thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is the report of the legal unit. Mr. Sales.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I've submitted to you my report. As Aaron mentioned in the enforcement report, we settled one case by conciliation agreement and administratively closed another. If there's any questions about my report, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions on the legal unit report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Next item is the committee reports. And under this, I like to also include old business, which will be the discussion around the written response or report out to the public regarding the audit. You have received two versions of a statement. And with that, let's have some discussion around those two statements, and then we'll decide how we proceed from that discussion.
Well, since nobody will say something, I think Miss Garnetta's version of it was more factual because she was there. That was the reason why I voted for that one to be presented.
Any others?
Yep.
Commissioner Cheney?
Yes. So I very much appreciate all of the work and the detail that was in the, I'm not sure what to call it. It's like statement A, statement B. Well, I'm not sure but so I think, my feeling is I understand the level of detail in the document that some of the commissioners prepared and are recommending. And I've tried to be very clear about this. I think it's incumbent upon us to put our primary focus on not the things that are behind us that we cannot change, but on the things that are before us with regard to policies, procedures, internal controls, and focus on making sure that the ship has been righted and that it's staying on course. The level of detail, again, is very much appreciated in the supplemental, I don't know what to call it. But I think that's all a matter of record in our discussions and our minutes and in the report. And I feel very strongly that we need to be much more forward focused on and be very clear about the things that the commission has done to ensure that some of the sloppiness or lack of administrative oversight have been addressed and cannot occur again in that fashion in the future. So that is my perspective. My preference is that we go with this originally prepared statement. Terrence, I don't know, I think the one that you sent out is my preference because it's more, in my mind, more forward looking.
May I speak to this?
Yes, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. As the author of the other, what I will call a press release, my purpose in writing it as I did was to be able to provide some context and provide a timeline, because everybody that receives this press release will not understand with the information that was presented in the original, kind of how we got where we are. Yeah, when the audit is released and they see that, they'll get that, but if they won't really know why is this important if they don't have some detail and some background information. So that was my perspective on writing it the way I did, just to provide a little background and context and a timeline for how we got where we are. Thank you.
I want to add to that as well, because Commissioner Smith was there, whereas Terrence was not. And we want to make sure that the record is correct. We're not trying to go back and rehash, as you're saying, Commissioner Cheney, but for the record, we need to have it right. There was a lot of things in the last year that we had in place to do some things, and it has to be on record. We're not blowing off trying to say that we're going to keep rehashing, but when you go back on history and you go back on the minutes, you want it to be correct. And the person that's making it correct is the person that was there. She had the most accountability of what went on. So that's the reason why Terrence's version of it for me doesn't fit and match, because as Commissioner Smith says, you have to follow the timeline that was actual. There were some things that, we wanted to make for the record. And, there's things that we have done in the last year. Each one of us that was been here knows that we want to make for the record that things that we made a decision on is correct. That's all we're saying. Terrence was not there. So he can't give an accountability as much as Commissioner Smith. So I can't see why you would see that. But, again, everybody's got their point of view. But, Terrence wasn't there. And, if you're going to now witness to something, you're not going to take an accountability of someone else that wasn't there and he puts his spin on it when he wasn't there.
No, and I appreciate that. I think that the nature of a news release just, it focuses on a typical news release focuses on whatever the current issue at hand is, and certainly it could provide context subsequent to the current issue at hand. And so I think that the originally prepared version better follows the what one would normally expect to see in a news release. It's not, you don't start with a reiteration, you begin with whatever the action is at the current time. Not to say that subsequently you cannot provide context, it just, I guess my thoughts were that the original version better reflected the current issue at hand. I in no way meant to detract from the intent.
I'd like to speak.
Yeah.
I think it's vitally important, even if it means that Commissioner Smith's entire version of the press release is not included, but to send this out as it is, it presents a picture that this journey started on June the 1st, 2020. And that is so far from the truth. It actually began in October of 2018. So I don't see the harm in maybe trying to include some of the historical information so that it will make sense to the readers of where we've been, because how can they appreciate what we're talking about that we're going to do in the future if there's no comparison to where we've been in the past? Why are we uncomfortable with including that? So I'm totally opposed to the release going out as it was presented by Mr. Sullivan, if we do not include revisions to include the historical part.
If I might say, thank you, Commissioner Randolph and Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Cheney and Commissioner Cole. The version, for the record, I want to make sure that the version that Executive Director Sullivan presented was not solely written by him, but there were prior conversations that were inclusive. I know I spoke with him about some things we added to it. So it's not just, and so I feel that in all fairness to what Commissioner Smith has said and what you have said, Commissioner Randolph, any adaptations that could give the kind of clarity that's forward thinking, that utilizes elements from Commissioner Smith, I think it's worthy to include that wherever possible. And, the key is making sure that what we do have is succinct and that it could stand the test of many different lenses that could perceive it and read it, and does not put us in any jeopardy as a commission or make any undue promises that we are not prepared to fulfill. For example, my comment of addition to it had to do with making sure that we commit to hiring the staff persons that are needed to help move the work along. So I think that what we have seen, and I want to honor the contribution of Commissioner Smith and taking the time to write And if we could look at it and redact whatever and find some alignment of flow such that the document flows and it makes a sense, but does indeed look at it succinctly as possible so that we are not overloading information that may not be as necessary as the public's interest in making sure that the commission has, as Commissioner Cheney has said, righted the ship, and we're moving in a different direction than where we were. So I just wanted to add that. I think that we could find some common ground on a document, then we can just move forward and look to better days ahead. That's my contribution to this discussion.
And Dr. Smith, I would also say that that was what I attempted to do, because the information that I included at the things that Mr. Sullivan had included, like, this is what we have done and what we are doing, was my attempt to say, okay, this is where we've been, this is how we got where we are, and this is where we're going, without promising we will do this. Well, we can say, yeah, we're going to do this, but we might be constricted by staffing or finances or so forth. So I wanted the language to be very careful to not promise things that we can't deliver, under promise, over deliver. And I appreciate your comments, and I was really looking to move forward, but you got to know where you came from. And if we don't look at some history, we're bound to repeat it. Thank you.
I do want to have another statement. I'm not opposed to going forward and moving forward in a positive manner. But what I am a little miffed is that everything that we have done getting to this, it seems like it's trying to be either watered down or make it not like it's not significant of what the findings and the things that we did in the last year. That's the thing that I am just most perplexed about. Moving forward sounds good. Saying that this was a learning lesson is good. Saying that this is something that we can move and lose as a learning tool. But we got to remember how we got here and why, and the history and the documentation is important. From the very beginning, we said we were opposed. So all these things that are happening now is because of that ripple effect of how we got here. So the folks that are still griping on this, not griping in a way of a negative, we're just trying to make sure that the documentation from the past is not overlooked. And those of you that were not here, you can't make that good decision based on what you've been given with this audit, because it is overwhelming for someone that just got it 2 weeks ago and didn't even live it at all. So those people that were here for that year and that went through all of that, we know what it took. And so we're going to find it very insulting that the record shows that, it was just a lightly a situation. It wasn't light. So again, we're just trying to make sure that the documentation is right. Garnetta's version of it is it may be as extensive to some people, but it's detailed and it has to be documented. Watering it down just to save some pages doesn't make sense to me.
May I say, I have in every comment I've tried to make is to honor persons who are before, but I do take some angst against the wisdom of new commissioners not being also respected. We are an entire current day commission, and we need to be unified and understand we have new commissioners, and with what knowledge we can participate, we're trying to do that. So I think that we cannot have any divisive comments, us and them, when we are a collective wisdom here. And I have personally made no attempt to water down anything. When we met in our special meeting last time, we gave every commissioner the opportunity to share so that we could benefit from everyone's wisdom on the matter. And I appreciated what the prior commissioners that are even gone and their sacrifice in handling this prior to their departure, and then those who are yet remaining. And do understand. But it's unfair to new commissioners to be made to feel like we're taking some position of putting something aside when that is not our mission. It's certainly not mine. And I would appreciate if we could refrain going forward with that kind of rhetoric, because we're in this together. We're in this together, and all commissioners are worthy of that respect. We have listened, and we have taken time to read what has been put before us. And I think that we can, as a collective unit, be able to come to whatever is necessary today and going forward to keep us going in the right direction. So I want to be respectful of all the toil and suffering and labor that has gone before. And I ask that the mutual respect be given to new commissioners so that we can work together.
Commissioner Cheney.
I couldn't remember if I was muted or not. So I think, first of all, I think what I'm hearing, I agree with Commissioner, both Commissioner Smiths, actually. And that, you know, perhaps I think a good way to address this is to do a blend of the two releases that, you know, acknowledges the audit, that it acknowledges the commission's actions and the underlying cause for those actions. News releases typically are no more than a page to a page and a half. And I think that we can bring these two things together rather quickly and in a way that addresses everyone's concerns. And if it is helpful, I'm happy to volunteer to assist in that effort.
Okay. Any other commissioner before I speak? Commissioner Henry?
I would just like to make a statement as a brand new commissioner. I understand this is pointed to both Commissioners Smith. I appreciate the past because the past tells us from whence we came. And I agree with the fact that we need to find some medium ground between both statements that can best describe the response from the commission. And I would hope that response would be a united response. We have to set the lead for the Commonwealth in actions like this. And I think it's good that we can talk about it. I've listened to everything that's been said, and I appreciate all that's been said. And I am very excited about the opportunity to be a part of this commission and to one day, hopefully, see you other than a picture on a video, to meet real people, because that's where we develop relationships. So I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I think I can stand sort of on the outside, being inside, and give you that point of view. We have to find a happy medium, a combination of the past to let us know what has occurred, because I didn't know everything that occurred, in order to make a decision about how we move forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph?
So looking at both versions of the press release, Commissioner Smith's and also Mr. Sullivan's, it looks like both versions are about a page and a half. I guess, Chair, my question is the goal to release the vote today to release the audit and to have our statement ready to accompany the audit immediately, or is this going to be delayed again until next month. I'm just a little bit confused as to where we are.
I thought, based on the discussion we had at the special meeting, I thought we were moving towards releasing both of them today with approval.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
So how
Let me-
long would it take then to just make those changes in
Well-
this meeting so we can meet that goal?
Well, I guess before we start down that road, I got some comments I would like to make in this regard. I guess I come at this from at least two perspectives. The opening paragraph in the statement, and I helped Terrence draft this. He put together the initial draft, and I gave him some comments regarding it. It opens with, in response to reported irregularities internally, the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights agent contracted with the auditing firm of Dean Dorton to conduct a forensic audit of internal practice within the agency. The audit was conducted at the direction of the commission with specific support from the Office of General and the state auditor. I guess I see at least my role as a commissioner here is not only to serve the commission, but also to protect it. And when and I appreciate what Commissioner Garnetta Smith put together. But when I read what was there, I wanted to know, the lawyer and me went to work, and it became what I saw was, is that we have to be aware of presenting, producing, and providing litigation documents that are in fact an admission of guilt. And we have to be very, very careful of that. We never want to prepare a roadmap for litigation or an admission of guilt in any of the things that we do. As I look through there, and there are some places, there are some admissions to violations of the Kentucky open meeting laws. And I understand wanting to recite the history of that opening paragraph that I read, I think talks about the past in terms of where it is and how we got to where we are. And then the statement moves on to talk about where we go from here. And I think if in fact the need for more detail is available, if the two documents, the one Terrence preparing the audit, are submitted at the same time, then in fact you end up with a history and a record that's out there. And I think if people request the audit, we give them that. I think our ultimate responsibility, and if you look at the one that Terrence has written, the responsibility for ensuring that this ship is right and that we go forward is placed on the commission, not the executive director. It is our job, our role, and our responsibility to be able to do that. And I think that is very, very clear in terms of the items that were listed. It says, the issues that we saw were deemed serious and assessed immediately, meaning that the commission as a body saw those as serious and then addressed them in terms of moving forward as it relates to that. And so it is, in my opinion, more forward-looking, acknowledges the past, but puts us on the ground in terms of going forward so that we don't get picked off in some litigation because of some statement or some factual statement that was made that wasn't necessary to the full understanding of it. And with that, I'll hear from wherever we are in terms of how people want to proceed.
I don't know about everybody else. I just need to think for a minute.
Okay.
So.
It takes time.
I guess if I could ask Commissioner Smith, hearing what Chair Burse has stated, do you have any redactions that fit that scenario that you think are still important or could be retracted or what have you, based on what you have and shared? If you could help us along on, based on the context of what Chair Burse has stated.
As Chair Smith, I would love to be able to give you some words, but my computer restarted just as Mr. Burse started his comments. And I missed part of that because I was trying to get on with my iPhone. So unfortunately, I didn't hear all of what he said. And the end of what I heard him say would have been out of context. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
Maybe.
But I think what I did hear was that the goal is to release a statement at the same time we release the results of Dean Dorton's forensic audit, which would then being publicly made, then they would be able to get the context after having read the release. Is that similar? I'm sorry,
Well, he also commented he might could restate a few things.
I'm sorry.
Just avoiding litigious document, I think, was key of what you were saying, Dr. Burks.
Yeah, I did hear that.
You did hear that part. No, I think at the end of the day is releasing the statement and the audit ought to be done simultaneously, or releasing the statement and if the media wants to request the audit, it be made available. But at this point, where we are, it is a public document,
right?
And so therefore it is available. Now, I don't know how much of the beginning of what I said you heard, but what I pointed to was, the need not to. I said, I guess I started with is our role is to serve the commission, but also is to protect it. And in terms of putting together what I call a roadmap for litigation or an admission of guilt is not necessarily the road that I would like to go down. And I think in terms of protecting the commission, that's something that we have to be aware of and be very, very, very responsible for. I also said that ultimately the responsibility for what is done and what is required to be done, what is monitored going forward, lies with the commission, not the executive director. So it's our job, our responsibility to do that. And I think in the statement that Terrence did that I had some input into, it states that the commission shall, or the commission will. And that's where the ultimate responsibility at the end of the day lies. Looking forward.
Well, to move this along, what is it possible to just go through each document, I guess, starting with Commissioner Smith's draft and determine what could be omitted without slanting the facts? I mean, in that first paragraph.
I guess my preference would be is the statement that Terrence has prepared that's been out there for 3 weeks is what needs to be added to that statement, because I think it passes the muster. Commissioner Cheney.
Okay, thank you for me off while I was still talking, Mr. Burst.
Commissioner Cheney.
So I have reread the draft of the news release 3 times while we've been talking about it. And frankly, I think that it's very clear disclosure. If anyone has questions about the specifics, the causative factors for each of the actions that we're taking, there is certainly enough acknowledgement of what the problems were and what we are doing to prompt additional questions from anyone who might have them. I don't feel like this is unduly summarized at a level that folks will not understand what occurred. The only significant thing that I see is that, in my mind, it would be good to somewhere in here reference the period during which the activities occurred, because they are somewhat aged and not current. And I think that clarity is required. Absent that, and with all due respect to everyone, I would like to make a motion that with a modification to add the period covered by the report, that the commission adopt the version prepared by the executive director and move forward with release of both the report and the press release.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion. Commissioner Garnett Smith.
Thank you. I do have a question. So this press release, you know, I'm a processor, so it would require me to figure out how to put it all together, but to make it reasonable. But will we release this, do the press release and the audit at the same time?
They both would be made available at the same time.
What's the difference between releasing at the same time and made available? So with the press release would say, the commissioners did an audit, had an audit commissioned, and we have the results, and this is what we're doing to move forward, et cetera. And then they can request the audit. Is that correct?
Well, I think the release is, if you, the statement that was put together that's it's in the motion on the floor would be that statement, and added to it would be a reference to the time period over which it occurred or to which it referenced. That would be released, and it makes reference to the audit. That would be released to the public. For those who want to request the audit, then in fact that audit would be made available to them.
May I ask which part of what I wrote would be included? I just want to, just for clarity.
I guess we'll go back to Commissioner Cheney. She said add a reference to the time period in which this occurred. So I think it is a reference to when the reported irregularities internally occurred. Am I right, Commissioner Cheney?
You are.
So what is that for clarity?
Yeah, I'm having trouble. I'm trying to.
Doesn't make any sense.
Would it be acknowledging the dates, the beginning of the timeline? Is that what we're talking about?
It is.
It would seem to me the date would be October 2018.
Yes. So
the reported irregularities, if in the audit report, was over a longer period than just 2018. It goes back several years. Am I not correct in that?
It goes back to 2012 minimally.
Right.
But if the intent is to show when the Board of Commissioners started the process to address the severe backlog of cases and the other issues, that began in after October 2018. Committees were appointed in February 2019. So I thought the agreement a few minutes ago was that we were going to try to combine both to reflect some of the historical information as well as looking forward.
That's not the motion that's on the floor. The motion on the floor.
Well, I realize that's not the motion that's on the floor, but that's what we had talked about earlier.
Well, I understand what we talked about earlier, but the motion on the floor was very specific in terms of referencing the time period within which the things occurred. Commissioner Cheney?
Here is the issue in my mind, and please, this is just my perspective, but the audit is available for anyone who wants to see it. The meetings are archived on YouTube or wherever. We have had very full, very public discussion. I think we've been more than forthcoming. We have done and paid for, frankly, I'm not sure how much, but we have paid in the tens of thousands of dollars to do our due diligence, to look into these issues, to identify things that need to be corrected, and the appropriate steps have been taken. That we must learn from the past, right? So that we don't repeat it, but we can't get stuck there. And I think that anyone who has a question about any of the material contained in the audit, there is certainly enough in the current press release version prepared by Terrence or whomever that can lead to a follow-on question. I say that with all due respect to everyone's perspective, but I also say that on the basis of having spent more than 10 years as a newspaper editor and publisher. I very clearly see both sides of this. There is adequate information in the news release for the media to ask follow-up questions. The issues are identified, and there is adequate public discourse. And so with the caveat that I would like to see the press release address the period of time over which Dean Dorton reviewed the material, not when Dean Dorton reviewed it, but the time frame that was covered within the report. And with that, I truly would like for us to consider concurrently approving both the report, the release, and moving on.
Could I just add a point of clarification for everyone, just for the question from Commissioner Cheney?
Go ahead.
So from the forensic report on page 8, it outlines 2 timelines. They reviewed emails from 2013 to 2020, and they analyzed financial transactions between 2008 and 2020. So those were the periods of review, if that was what you were looking for, Commissioner Cheney.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor to approve the first release was sent out with the addition of language relating to the time period of the audit. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. So that we need to make that correction or insertion of that language, Terrence, and once you do it, circulate it to Commissioner Cheney and all the rest of the commissioners to make certain we properly incorporate that reference there. And then and hopefully folks, when he sends it out to you, I'd hate to be when he sends it out to you, is to get a reply back to him in terms of around the language by the end of the day so that we can release this thing first thing in the morning. Okay. Thank all.
Church.
Somebody. Okay. So that's where we are. Is there any other committee action or committee reports from any committees? Okay, hearing none. Any new business? Hearing none. Next item is any suggestions for agenda topics for the next commission meeting from any of the commissioners? So Commissioner Cheney.
I've asked Mr. Sullivan if we can please invite the young lady who is the winner of the Bardstown Human Rights Commission's Human Rights Essay Contest to share her essay with us at next month's meeting, if time allows.
Okay. We will so do. Any other topic from any other commissioners? Okay, in closing, I guess I have some a reiteration of some statements I made probably in the very first meeting that I attended, and that is that process and procedure for operating and meeting are essential to the overall operation of the entire Kentucky Commission. And the reminder is that the commission itself hires the executive director. The executive director hires the staff, and that the staff reports to the executive director, which means the executive director employs them, directs them, and we've got to make certain absolutely that we in fact put our staff back into the role of reporting to our commission, to our executive director, and so the things will flow through the executive director to us. In Article 5, Section 2 of the bylaws of this organization, that is in fact laid out pretty clear, pretty straightforward in regards to that. The executive director is responsible for managing the internal operations of the agency. And we have to, in fact, empower him to be able to do that job and support him in terms of doing that. To the extent that that is not being done, then we as a commissioner, as a commission, needs to hold the executive director responsible and accountable for the day in terms of the day-to-day operation. And the next thing I'm going to say, I really don't want to say, rightly or wrongly. I can tell you that several members of our staff feel like they're under the gun by this commission. And what we need to do is to figure out how we all work together to make the role and responsibility of the commission to fulfill what its statutory obligation is, and that is to protect citizens of the Commonwealth from discrimination in any form or any manner. And the only way we can do that is we have to rely on staff. I do not have the time, nor I think you, on a daily, day-to-day basis to get into the internal operation and run the commission. We got to allow the staff to do it and then hold Terrence accountable for what is done and not done. And so I encourage you and ask you once again is to make certain that if any of the members of staff contact you, put them in, you can have a conversation, but then pick up the phone or send an email to Terrence and say, this person called me and this is what they said. We need to do that in order to be successful going forward. And I ask and implore all of you to align your conduct, your behavior, and all those things with that. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that this meeting of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights be adjourned. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank all of you for your time. Thank you for your work and what you do. We have a big responsibility to the state, and I look forward to continuing to work with each and every one of you as we advance the mission and goals of this organization. So thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.